Hello everyone, this is the mind of Lilith, and thank you for joining me today as I take a deeper look into the most recent episode of Love and Marriage Huntsville Season 6, Episode 7. I will not be doing a full episode recap as there are plenty of other content creators who do a great job covering the show. Instead, I'm going to focus on specific segments of the episode that I believe could be used as teachable moments for myself and the audience. I'm going to focus on Martell's magazine cover party, which I believe is completely unnecessary. And I don't know why Martell did not promote his wine, Inez wine, at the event. This is bad business. So yeah, why was Martell on the cover and why was this party necessary? So at the party, Martell invited just about all the cast except Melody. And at some point, Stormy, Tisha, Kiki, and Tiffany get into a conversation about some of the things that Tiffany was saying about Kiki and Tisha in the past. So during this episode, I found myself calling Tiffany's name like over and over again. I was like, Tiffany, 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 what are you doing? Every single scene, every question, the conversations, it was just tone deaf and unnecessarily intrusive and inflammatory. Okay, so Tiffany broke two of my cardinal rules. I have many cardinal rules, but these are two of them. Do not get in the middle of a fight between family members or spouses, because when they make up, you're going to look like the idiot and boo-boo the fool. All right. So during the conversation or the powwow with Stormy, Tiffany, Kiki, and Tisha, Kiki revealed that at some point Tiffany was showing Kiki support when she was going at it with Tisha. So in response to Kiki revealing that Tiffany was being two-faced, Tiffany was like, yeah, I'm trying to support black women. I always support black women. But then she tried to throw Kiki under the bus as if she was some horrible person who would turn on her own cousin. And as expected, Kiki and Tisha made up, and now Tiffany's on the outs. Tiffany is being way too messy, way too nosy, way too something, and I think she's doing this to stay on the show. There's no reason, or there's no way that Tiffany could be this tone deaf and like disrespectful. There's no way. But I think that she's stirring up drama to stay on the show because there's a real reason why she should be on the show at this point, because her storyline is kind of flat. It is what it is, right? Every time they showed Tiffany in her confessional, I started laughing because she was holding the baby like a watermelon. It was hilarious. I don't know why her hands are resting on the belly as if she were holding a watermelon. It just looks silly. But anyway, at some point, Sheree arrives at Martell's event. And Martell kind of gives her the cold shoulder from what I saw. Like, I don't know if he was nervous and his nervousness made him a bit awkward and weird when it came to her. But she arrived before Martell made his speech and he didn't even acknowledge her in the crowd. He didn't say, I would like to thank my friend girl, Sheree, for coming out. Is that a new thing? Friend girl instead of girlfriend? Is that what the men are calling women that they're having situationships with, having sex with, but don't want to claim? That's my friend girl. That's my homie. Wow. Anyway, so he calls her his friend girl and he has this speech. He doesn't thank her for showing up. He thanks somebody else for showing up. Then, he leaves the stage. He goes to meet her, gives her this weak ass hug and doesn't even like escort her around and formally introduce her to his friends. Now, he may have done that off camera. I don't know. But that's not what I saw, and it looked really bad. Like, they were showing her pretty much by herself. She didn't have anybody to talk to. Like, he didn't really introduce her to anyone to make her feel comfortable enough to start a conversation with anybody at that party. So that was weird and awkward to me. Then Tiffany shows up and starts to ask all of these invasive, disrespectful, tone-deaf questions. So the first rule I mentioned earlier was not getting in between friends and family. Do not pick sides in an argument between a husband and a wife, girlfriend or boyfriend, relatives. Don't do it because at some point they'll make up and you're the odd man out. The second rule I have is I'm not going to waste my time asking you a question if I know you're going to lie to me in response. So Tiffany was asking Sheree questions that somebody would be dishonest about or somebody would be too embarrassed or offended to answer. The questions that Tiffany was asking was none of her business. It was none of her business. She was not doing Melody any favors, asking Sheree questions that honestly Melody would not even care to ask, because Melody is no longer concerned about Martell. At some point, Tiffany asked Sheree, "Do you think that Martell is still in love with Melody?" And how did Tiffany think that Sheree would respond to that question? Sure, he's still in love with her, but I'm just too stupid and horny and attracted to him to care. Of course, Sheree would answer no to that question. Sheree, in my opinion, I don't think she would have dated Martell if she honestly believed that he still was in love with his ex-wife. A lot of women don't know how to tell when a man has feelings for somebody he used to be with. Or a lot of us have wishful thinking that, perhaps we'll put it on him so good that he'll forget about his ex. And Tiffany kind of said that, yeah, because your poom poom was so good, you think that he'll forget about his ex if he does have feelings for her. And that was inappropriate and out of line for her to say. Listen, if you watch the show from the beginning and you know how narcissists operate, you know that Martell has not fully let go of Melody. As a matter of fact, the only reason why Martell and Melody are not together is because Melody doesn't want to be with Martell. If Melody gave Martell another chance, he would jump at the opportunity to be with her. That's common sense to most people. And so Sheree answered her question appropriately. She was like, yeah, that's not the way that I feel about it now based on our interactions. But even if Sheree did believe that Martell was still in love with Melody, what does that have to do with Tiffany? It sounds like Tiffany is trying to sabotage Martell's relationship with Sheree because she thinks that that's what Melody wants. And Melody doesn't want that. Like, you're not looking out for your girl Melody by sabotaging his future relationships. That's unnecessary. And I think that's counterproductive because the more time Sheree and other women spend with Martell, the less time Martell has to be concerned about what the fuck Melody is doing. So Tiffany is basically starting trouble for no reason. These are not productive questions. Because Sheree is a woman of a certain age who is not going to spill all her tea to a complete stranger who's mad nosy. Tiffany was being wild nosy. And then she asked Sheree if she had ever met Melody. Melody is not a hater. Melody is not threatened by other women. Okay? Even Ariane said during her interview with Tasha K that at some point she had met up with Melody and Melody was very nice to her. Melody was very cordial with her. Melody was not disrespectful to her because she did not blame Ariane for what Martell was doing. Melody's not a hater. She's not going to have an issue or an attitude with Sheree, okay? She put up with Ariane for years and Ariane never had her face punched in. So at this point, Sheree has done nothing to get on Melody's bad side. These are two grown women. Right? Melody's divorced. Sheree's dating her ex-husband. That's it. There's no beef. There's no animosity. There's no weirdness about it. It's not a big deal. But the problem is that Tiffany was acting as if Sheree and Martell were being irresponsible because she's not buddy-buddy or close to Melody like that. Most single parents and divorced people do not introduce their exes to their new partner unless it's something really serious. Martell and Sheree just met. They're not in some sort of committed relationship at this point. At this point, Martell still refers to Sheree as his friend girl, not even girlfriend. She's a friend girl. As a grown woman in her 50s, she's a friend girl. Okay. So Martell is saying that because he knows that Ariane is watching this show. And he knows that he's foul as fuck for breadcrumbing and leading Ariane on for all these years, only to claim another woman in public as his friend girl. And so yeah, Tiffany was being out of pocket and she was being very irresponsible because she's pregnant. Now, if somebody wanted to punch her in the face or do something to her physically, then it would be, oh, she's pregnant. Listen, just because you're pregnant doesn't mean you have a license to go around setting fires in people's lives, starting trouble, being messy, being gossipy. Like, Tiffany is very, very, very messy, period. But she's messy this season. I don't know if she's, putting it on for the sake of the show. I think that's the case. So this is why I think Tiffany is playing it up for the cameras. Okay? Somebody who's really messy knows how to be messy in a subtle, covert way. They know how to be messy in a way that doesn't make them look bad, right? The things that Tiffany is saying and doing is making her look bad, which to me means that this is not who she really is. At her age, someone who's really, really messy knows how to play the game and knows how to play the sides against the middle without getting their hands dirty. Tiffany's not doing that. She's just doing what she thinks will get her more attention more camera time, more controversy. I don't believe that she's as dumb and messy. She's not a dumb girl. I think that she's playing it up for the cameras because she's too heavy-handed, she's too sloppy, she's too inconsiderate, it's too unrealistic. In real life, this is not how messy people operate. I've been around enough messy people to know that you don't ask questions that you know the person won't give you an honest response to. Tiffany seems very square, very green, and she's not about that life in my opinion. I think that she got a warning from Carlos to get it together, or you gotta get off the show because there's no reason why you're on the show at this point, right? And you know, I don't like this arc for her. She's not a smart, messy villain. She's a messy villain that will get caught up in the game. Her feelings will get hurt. She'll start crying and then she'll look like the victim. That's not a good messy villain, okay? She's not like Nene or like Kenya from RHOA who would ask like questions that were loaded with inferences, right? I'm going to infer something about you based on the questions that I'm asking versus me asking you directly what's going on with your life. Because again, that would put somebody on the defense. And if they're defensive, they're not going to be vulnerable with you. They're not going to tell you the truth and they'll get offended and sometimes even angry, right? Like Kiki did. So yeah, Tiffany needs to find a better way of being the messy, bone-carrying, disrespectful cast member on the show. Because this ain't her lane. It's obvious it's not. Because she's too heavy-handed, she's too direct, she's too green. It's not the way you do it. If you want to start some shit, you got to do it in a way that makes you look like you're innocent. Otherwise, you'll be the bad guy. And she's not doing that. So yeah, in the next scene, Sheree visits Martell's home. And they're having a conversation about the party. And Sheree is telling Martell what Tiffany was asking her. And she pretty much asks him, like, do you still have feelings for your ex-wife? Now, when I was in my early 20s, I dated a guy who broke up with his ex, and it was a really bad breakup, right? From what he told me. And before we even started getting really serious, I remember one day asking him if he still had feelings for his ex. Because I didn't want to get involved with somebody who was still holding on to somebody else. I don't do rebounds. Okay, I don't want to be somebody else's rebound, and I usually take time after a relationship is over to heal and process things and, you know, reflect on things that I've learned and, you know, stuff like that, right? So I don't do rebounds either way. I don't want to be a rebound, and I don't treat men like rebounds. So when I asked my ex this years ago, he gave me the same energy Martell gave me. Now, at the time, I didn't know any better because I was still very green in the dating world, but he gave me the same subdued energy. It was like, no, I'm not. Of course not. No. There was no conviction behind his response. At the time, though, I was of the mindset where I believed what a man told me, right? Because I was in my early 20s. Like, why would he lie? They're not together. Lo and behold, months later, I found out he still had feelings for her, and it was what it was. Fine. Martell gave me that same energy in this scene when Sheree asked him, are you still in love with her? Do you still have feelings for her? Yes, Martell still has feelings for Melody. I feel like Martell will always see Melody as the woman who got away, or the one who got away, because she filed for divorce from him and he didn't want to get a divorce. He didn't. Melody is still like a very attractive woman. She has a lot of great qualities that men would find attractive. He didn't leave her after she got unattractive and gained a lot of weight and got really old, and, you know, the excuses men use to cheat and leave their wives. None of that applied to Melody. Melody is still popping and young and vibrant. And so there's still some juice left in her to squeeze. Martell will always see her as the one who got away. That's not Sheree's fault. And it's up to Sheree if she wants to deal with someone with that kind of baggage. But just because Martell may still have feelings for Melody doesn't mean that he doesn't have the right to date anybody else, because Melody doesn't want to be with him. So Martell having feelings for Melody won't mean anything because Melody doesn't want to be with him. It takes two to be in a relationship. Now, if Melody still has feelings for Martell, then I can say, okay, well, Sheree, that's the red flag. But it is a red flag to still have feelings for your ex, but at the same time, Melody doesn't want to be with him, so they won't be together anyway. So Martell at some point has to move on with his life, right? And I think that Sheree knows this and is aware of this. I think Sheree feels comforted by the fact that she knows that Melody doesn't want Martell back. If Melody wanted Martell back, that would be a huge problem. But it's not the case. So Martell may have feelings for Melody still, but there isn't a damn thing he can do about it but treat his new girlfriends like shit because he's not over his ex. That's what happens a lot with these men. The reason why Martell hasn't committed to Ariane yet is because he partially blames her for his divorce. And so now he's punishing her by breadcrumbing her for years, not committing to her. There were rumors that he got her pregnant again, I don't know. If that happened, then they're both dumb. Either way, like, Martell and Melody will not be together. So Sheree is taking a calculated risk and getting involved with somebody who may still have feelings for their ex. But at the same time, she knows for sure they won't get back together. So it's like, it's a risk that I understand why she's willing to take. Now, would I ever date Martell? Hell fucking no. Seeing the way he treated Melody, I don't care how he treats me. Initially, I don't care how nice he is. There's no way I would trust someone who could treat their ex-wife like that. I don't care. But I'm not Sheree. So, Sheree may have a different perspective and a vantage point on things than I do. But I would never date a man like Martell. After seeing the receipts of how he treats his ex-wife. This is the Carfax. Not just Melody. He treated Ariana like shit too. He treated both of them like crap. So if the man you're dating treats the most valuable women in his life like shit, then more than likely, as the relationship progresses and you get secure with him and things get more routine and, you know, consistent and steady and committed or whatever you call it, more than likely he'll treat you the same way. And so Sheree, I think, can see the writing on the wall. Hopefully she can see it. She's a smart woman. She's experienced. She's independent. Martell is saying that, I can't believe he said this. He said she's the type of woman that a man would want to marry. Or I think he said she's wife material, something like that. Listen, when a man says that a woman is wife material, he's usually giving her false hope. Because men of a certain age, who have experience, when I see a woman who's wife material, they're not friend girls. They're girlfriends, then fiancés, then wives. And the progression is pretty steady and quick. There are no other women, you know, around to distract that male, for the most part. So when a man says, I see a woman who is wife material, that means that she's not wife material for him. Because if she was wife material, then he would have claimed her as his girlfriend at the very least, not his friend girl. He means she's wife material for another man, not for him. This is like him saying, it's not you, it's me. You know, you have all these wonderful qualities, you're beautiful, you're this, you're that, you're that, you're third. And then 6 months later, he's married to somebody else. Okay? So he's saying that Sheree has wifely qualities, just not for someone like him. He's still with Ariana at this point, so to speak. He's still messing with her sexually, whatever the case may be. And so instead of Martell saying, I see her as the woman for me, he's going to say, I see her as a wife. Not the wife, not my wife, a wife. To somebody, but just not me. So a lot of women get their hopes up when men say, yeah, she's wife material, but you're still dating her 5, 6, 17 years later, right? I'm not saying that Martell should, you know, rush and marry Sheree, but just as a red flag, when someone says, I see you as wife material, instead of I see you as my wife, that's two different things. Two totally different things. And Martell also said that she's submissive. No. Isn't Ariana submissive to Martell? Ariana had multiple pregnancies by Martell. Ariana did whatever Martell wanted her to do. So why isn't she submissive enough for Martell? Ariana is not submissive enough for Martell because Martell does not see Ariana as a come-up. She is not a status symbol. Sheree will be a status symbol, but Sheree is still not the wife for him. She is a wife for somebody else. I don't see him marrying Sheree. I don't think he wants to get married anytime soon. If he does get married, it'll be to fuck with Melody or Ariana, and that's it. Like, I don't see him committing to anyone at this point emotionally, which I think is fine. I think it's too soon for him to get married or even be in a serious relationship. He needs some therapy for years to resolve his issues with insecurities, with women, with resentment, with shame, with like his abusive tendencies, his bad temper. Like, he has to resolve all those issues before he can be husband material for anybody. So I hope that, you know, Sheree is using him as a bald-headed dildo. I don't think that she should commit to him emotionally. I think she should have fun with him. You know, she asked the right question, like, are you still in love with your ex? Of course he's going to say no, but she did the right thing by asking because in the future she can hold him accountable for lying if it turns out that he does still have feelings for Melody. So if you don't ask your man the questions in the beginning, you can't hold him accountable for not telling the truth down the line. And if you can't hold him accountable for anything because you never ask him any questions, he can gaslight you into staying with him because he'll tell you, you knew what it was. You know what it is. The guy will act like omission is not deception. So if you don't ask the man the question, then he doesn't have the opportunity to lie to you. And he can tell you that in the end, like, yo, I never lied to you because you never asked him. So Sheree did put him on the spot. She did the right thing by asking him, do you still have feelings for your ex-wife? No, I don't. Okay, 6 months later, we see the evidence and the receipts, and now you can identify him as a liar, as a manipulator, as somebody who's not honest about their feelings. So what do you want to do now? Do you want to keep playing boo-boo the fool, or are you going to see things for what they are and move on with your life, right? Okay. So yeah, in the next episode, Marceau and Martell confront Tiffany. I don't like the idea of two grown men confronting a pregnant woman by herself. I don't think that Martell and Marceau will hurt Tiffany, but it looks bad. It looks bad. And she's married. They should be confronting her husband and not Tiffany. But Tiffany is doing too much. And I think she's doing it again for the show because she doesn't know how to be messy without being messy. She doesn't know how to be messy without looking like the bad guy, okay? If you want to be messy, you cannot be identified as the source of the mess. Because if you're identified as the source of the mess, you won't have access to information and conversations and discussions and relationships that will allow you to be messy in the future. It's as simple as that. Tiffany is trying to play a role that is not suitable for her. This is not who she is. It's not her lane. Tiffany needs to find another lane because she's not well liked on the show anyway. And so the messiness may backfire on her. So she needs to be authentic and say, you know what? This is not who I am. If who I am is not good enough for the show, then I'll just leave the show. Because to be honest, her being messy will get her kicked off anyway. It's going to backfire regardless because she's not doing it in an entertaining way. It's very cringe, very try hard, and to be honest, like very disingenuous. One more thing. So while they were at Martell's party, Kimmy said something very, very poignant. She said, it looks like Sheree and Martell have a business arrangement. Their chemistry is off. She said that when Martell and Melody were together, they would work the room together. They had natural synergy. And I noticed that too. I noticed that Martell was very standoffish with Sheree. And I'm like, is he nervous? Like, I just felt, if I was Sheree, I would have felt like, what? I would have felt a bit weird. Maybe it's what they showed on the episode, on camera, on screen. But for me, I would have been upset if somebody invited me somewhere and I'm showing them support all the way from Atlanta. You know, I'm driving miles away to see this person, or flying, whatever, to see this person at this event. They give me this weak ass hug and they're like, yeah, I gotta hang out with my friends, my homies. They're not introducing me to their friends. You know, they're not walking me around the room. They're not showing me off. None of that. Nah, Martell felt some kind of way. I think he missed Melody. He mentioned Melody during his confessional. I think he missed Melody more than he expected. I'm gonna say this. Now, this is just me speculating and being messy. I think that he wished Melody was there, and I think he was hoping she would show up, like subconsciously, and so he didn't really want to play Sheree too close because I think he would have rather Melody be there, to be honest. I think he was a little bit upset about that. And he mentioned that it's like the first event he's had, or the first magazine cover he's had without Melody being there with him. For him to be thinking about something like that 2 years after his divorce means that he's still stuck in the past. And so, yeah, I think that's why he didn't really play Sheree close, is because, or didn't really give him much attention because he was really interested in Melody being there, and she wasn't. Whoever Martell ends up dating and being really serious with will have some really big shoes to fill. Because there's nothing worse than dealing with somebody who is divorced but did not want to get a divorce. Like, they're still emotionally attached to this other person. And there's nothing the new person can do about it because that relationship is over. It's not like the new person is coming in between an active relationship. The relationship is ended, but your man or your woman is still interested in their ex. So they're like in love with a ghost. I said this over a year ago, or last year. Was it last year? Around June? Something like that. I said that Martell is going to make his new girlfriends compete with Melody's ghost. He's not over her, so he's going to triangulate with the memories of Melody and these other women. and they'll always be competing to fill Melody's shoes, which are huge because Melody is now like very popular. She has her own money, she's beautiful, and she's the mother of his 4 children. So whoever Martell's dating is going to have to like deal with that issue. Like, this man is still in love with his ex, or he's not over it. He's not over the divorce. He said he never wanted to get a divorce, which means that he still has feelings for Melody. I mean, you know, what, a few weeks ago, a couple months ago, Melody told Carlos that Martell sent her a huge bouquet of like over 100 roses. Like, he's still trying to court her in a sense, because he wants revenge. He wants to be the one to say, I don't want to be with you anymore. He wants to win, and Melody won't give him that win. And so now he's bitter and obsessed. That's essentially what it is. So yeah, I did agree with Kimmy. Kimmy was like, you know, it seems like a business arrangement rather than a relationship. I mean, at this point, Martell's not going to really be emotionally invested in anybody anyway, so he might as well get it how he lives, I guess. I would have loved if Kimmy and Sheree would have had a conversation. They're both around the same age. They have the same type of vibe. Like, these are two grown, attractive, successful women. It would have been really cool for them to have a conversation. But I think that Kimmy didn't want to step on Martell's toes. And, you know, she didn't want to impose herself on Sheree. So most of the cast kind of stood back and respected her space, which looked kind of weird because, again, Martell did not formally introduce her to the cast. They know of her, yeah, but I think that they didn't want to look like fanboys or groupies or whatever, so they kind of pulled back and didn't give her much attention. And then Tiffany swoops in with her uncouth, tactless ass. Anyway, I'm gonna leave it there. I look forward to reading your feedback. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I will speak to you soon.